Hi folks, Marc Bashoor, Executive Editor for Fire Rescue One and firechief.com. We're going to take a few minutes today to talk about the firefighter line of duty statistics recently released by the National Fire Protection Association. Now, before we start to talk about them, it's important to understand that I fully recognize certain unions or certain volunteer organizations or even the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation versus what NFPA reports. There's a difference in reporting mechanisms based on what laws or what procedures locally might impact a jurisdiction's ability to label something as a line of duty death, or what PSOB recognizes as a line of duty death. Okay, so let's recognize up front that there is still some disparity in how this data is collected and mined. So what I'm only talking about today is the release of the 2023 firefighter fatality data by the National Fire Protection Association. So let's take a look at the numbers. You'll see here that according to the NFPA, 89 firefighters died in the United States, and as their definition is, died from traumatic injuries, heart attacks or strokes or aneurysms while on duty or within 24 hours of duty. So this does not include cancer deaths or does not include other medical conditions outside of those things that I just read, and that's just the way NFPA captures the data. And you'll see on this graph that a full 53% of the fatalities occurred on a scene of some kind, and they have it broken into three categories: a fireground, a non-fire emergency, which is also not EMS, and an EMS scene. 53%, that's 47 of the fatalities, occurred while operating on the scene. 19 occurred while responding to or returning from an incident. So in total, from an incident perspective, responding to, operating, and getting back from the scene, 66 of the 89 occurred during that period of time. So that lends credence to the fact that we operate in diverse environments and dynamic environments that require us to be at the top of our game. You really need to drill down into the data and into the statistics to understand where the heart attacks versus the functional deaths occurred, and I'll talk a little bit about some of that now. But let's look a little bit further. Training, and this one gets me, folks. This one gets me every time. We lost 10 firefighters during training incidents. Now, a bunch of those were a result of heart attacks, but that doesn't excuse the fact that this was folks who had heart attacks during a training event. We've got to do something better when we're in these training environments, and certainly we shouldn't be losing anybody to a training function during a training event. 7 fatalities occurred during normal station duty, 3 during maintenance or station duties, and 18 in vehicle crashes. That number of 18 in vehicle crashes is the highest number since 2018. At least 8 of those 18 didn't involve another vehicle. So the fire department vehicle they were in, or the vehicle they were in, either hit an immovable object or it went off the road on its own, or something to that effect. 8 of the 18 didn't involve another vehicle. Now, the one that a lot of people pay attention to, of the 89, 9 of the 89 were killed in caught or trapped incidents. So this involves, I'll just break down the statistics for you. 5 of them were in rapid fire spread, 1 of them in a backdraft, 1 of them in a roof collapse, 1 of them in a floor collapse, and 1 of them in an underwater trapping situation. 9 of the 89 were killed in those dramatic incidents that a lot of folks try and say that that's where we're killing all our firefighters. It's still a significant number, but it's not where we're killing all of our firefighters. Now, this statistic, I talked a little bit about heart attacks a few minutes ago. This statistic is alarming. It's always alarming, and we hear it and we seem to just go blah, blah, yeah, whatever. We've got to stop doing that, and that is the overexertion or strain. 48 of the deaths, 48 of the 89, so that's 54%. 48 of the 89 died in the category of overexertion or strain. 37 of those 48 were sudden cardiac events. Now, Did those firefighters have annual physicals? Did those firefighters have any of the preemptive care that we see out there now? I don't know. I don't know whether they did or didn't, but I know that we recognize there is a health, wellness, and fitness dilemma in the fire service, and this statistic proves it. 37 of the 48 that died in stress or overexertion incidents were sudden cardiac events. So once again, the big takeaway here is that 66 of the 89 died either responding to, operating on, or returning from an incident. So the vast majority of folks died in that response, operation, or return from an incident. The recent firefighter safety stand down asks us to focus on the basics, and that's justified as we look at what those responses are, the basics of just responding to, operating on, and coming back from a scene. Generally speaking, firefighter deaths, line of duty deaths, have come down since the 1970s, even as call volumes and populations have risen steadily. The reduction is in large part to increased training standards, increased fire protection standards, and frankly, overall, better education. As I've said already, it's clear that we need to focus on our cardiovascular health. We need to focus on the basics of getting there, operating there, and returning from there. If we can get those things down, we will have significantly reduced the number of firefighters that are dying in the line of duty. Folks, I hope that the recent firefighter safety stand down was an opportunity for you to truly examine the basics. From everything as simple as wearing your seatbelt to as complex as your own physical health and well-being. We know we need to do better from just the simple examination of these statistics. We know that we need to do better. After all, we're not going to help our communities if we don't get there in the first place. And we won't do anybody any good if we're not okay when we get there. Thanks for listening. This is Marc Bashoor, Executive Editor for FireRescue1.com and FireChiefs.com. Have a great day.